Okay, it's not even a normal guy that did it. It's also like what's normal about him? It's good stock in the way that conservatives would say. This person comes from a close family, has relationships with people, is not alienated, is not isolated, has not demonstrated antisocial personality disorders, okay? Is in constant contact with other people. 4.0 GPA, Mormon family, okay? That is the reason why a lot of right-wingers, when they saw that background, immediately went, oh, shit. This doesn't fucking fit the profile of like anything that we've seen. Oppressive conservative family plus gun culture plus nihilistic on the value of life. Yeah, it's like it feels like it's like a situation where like you shoot a high profile conservative public speaker because you're fucking bored. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think he did it for the memes necessarily. I understand why all of the law enforcement, regardless of their fucking biases, regardless of the fact that they're trying to present this as like a clear-cut indication, a clear-cut instance of like, Antifa-style radicalized violence or anything. But like when you look at the background, the evidence that we have so far of the shooter's background, it does make sense as to why one could look at that and say he is like quote unquote woke or of the lib left variety. And the reason why I say that is because depending on how biased you are, depending on how right wing you are, depending on like from the perspective of a Utah Mormon family, yes, like if you have a trans roommate that you're romantically involved in, that's the most woke you can be. There's the most woke person on the planet from their perspective, you know? And those who are seen as critical of Donald Trump, even outlets that are seen as critical of Donald Trump, one is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns fucking Fox News, who is perhaps most responsible in terms of mainstream media outlets in the United States of America for Donald Trump's rise to power. And the other is the New York Times. Again, lightly critical of Donald Trump at times because they do engage, and at least when it comes to domestic affairs, like they engage in decent news coverage from time to time, but also still very much pro-Israel anyway. Oh. Remember when the Dems helped pass the TikTok ban after it was dead in the water because people were saying mean things about Israel? Yes, I do remember. I do remember that. Fantastic stuff from the Democrats. Once again, another instance of liberal capitulation to far-right reactionary authoritarian initiatives that will end up hurting them in the fucking long run. I don't know about the TikTok deal. The TikTok deal is looking like a complete surrender by the admin, and it may even be illegal. If true, the U.S. will let Beijing determine what appears on the news feeds of 180 million U.S. TikTok users. Not quite America first. Even the advisors to the deal are renouncing it. It's the ultimate taco trade, said one U.S. advisor. That's a Financial Times. That's the pink tint of the Financial Times, which means I will take this reporting. I will take this reporting sincerely. This is probably the closest you are going to arrive at the truth. Out of all the major publications, once again, as leftists, as Marxists, as socialists, we say Financial Times is probably one of the best. Okay? It's the ultimate taco trade, said one U.S. advisor close to the deal, referring to the acronym Trump always chickens out. After all this, China keeps the algorithm. Beijing has said the U.S. spinoff of TikTok to be sold to American investors in a deal orchestrated by President Donald Trump will use parent company ByteDance's Chinese algorithm. Wang Jingtao, deputy head of China's powerful cybersecurity regulator, told reporters on Monday night that U.S. and Chinese officials had agreed to a framework that included licensing the algorithm and other intellectual property rights. I don't I don't know if it's a bad deal overall. I don't see that. I think this is I think that person is fear mongering a little bit. Yes, I'm white Chinese. That's why I pronounced that Chinese person's name very well, because I'm white Chinese. Let's see. Let's do a paywall remover and try to see if we can get it. Okay, we got it. Beijing has said the U.S. spinoff of TikTok to be sold to American investors in a deal orchestrated by President Donald Trump will use parent company ByteDance's Chinese algorithm. Wang Jingtao, a deputy head of China's powerful cybersecurity regulator, on Monday said the U.S. and Chinese officials had agreed to a framework that included licensing the algorithm and other intellectual property rights. He said ByteDance would entrust the operation of TikTok's U.S. user data and content security without elaborating. So this kind of looks like the same. This means that there will be a backdoor to like all of the user data. But they will still control the algorithm. But I will say that the U.S. TikTok regulators have already conceded on a bunch of stuff on the Israel issue. Right? There's already a pro-Israel person that was tasked with combating anti-Semitism on the platform. So not sure how free the Chinese algorithms are going to look like. For context, Oracle already operates all of China's U.S. data stored in Texas, so it would not be surprising if Oracle were the biggest buyer in the U.S. markets. Yeah. Trump, who is expected to finalize the deal when he speaks to China's President Xi Jinping on Friday, has again extended the deadline for the U.S. app to be divested from its Chinese owner. The U.S. president on Tuesday issued an executive order moving the date to mid-December, allowing time to negotiate and implement an agreement for greater U.S. control of the app. TikTok's powerful recommendation algorithm has been at the heart of a geopolitical tug-of-war over the short video app since the first Trump administration, when Beijing unveiled export controls on algorithms to thwart a forced sale of the app. The artificial intelligence algorithm underpins the app's prized ability to serve up addictive videos tailored to individual users, but has also raised fears among national security hawks that it could be manipulated to push Chinese propaganda or polarizing material to users. I wish that was the case. If that was the case, I'd be the biggest fucking political voice in the United States of America. That is the reality. Very clearly, they are either oblivious to what they have here, or they're just playing ball with the admin. Like, one of the smartest things that the Chinese government did very clearly was tweak the algorithm in favor of Charlie Kirk videos. Donald Trump literally gave a stay of execution to TikTok for that reason. Okay? That's what happened. They tweaked the algo to boost right-wing sentiment on the application. And that's precisely what took place leading up to the election. And that's the reason why at least Trump thought Charlie Kirk was like so impactful in securing a larger percent of the Gen Z vote than ever before for Donald Trump. That is something that they deliberately did. Okay? That means they were willing to play ball in order to continue having TikTok be somewhat controlled, the algorithms on TikTok be somewhat controlled by the Chinese government. U.S. officials have insisted any deal must ensure TikTok's recommendation algorithm is fully severed from ByteDance, warning continued cooperation could allow Beijing to maintain influence over content seen by Americans. It remains unclear to what extent TikTok's Chinese parent would retain control over the algorithm in the U.S. part of a licensing deal. An Asia-based investor of ByteDance said the new U.S. TikTok entity would use at least part of the Chinese algorithm, but train it in the U.S. on American user data. Beijing's bottom line is a licensing deal, said the investor. Beijing wants to be seen as exporting Chinese technology to the U.S. and the world. It's the ultimate taco trade, said one U.S. advisor close to the deal, referring to the acronym Trump always chickens out. After all this, China keeps the algorithm. American and Chinese officials reached a framework agreement on Monday after 2 days of talks in Madrid to hammer out a deal that would keep the Chinese-owned app online in the U.S. The Trump administration has repeatedly intervened to keep TikTok available, despite U.S. law that required ByteDance to divest its American operations of the app or face a nationwide ban. Newsom is meeting the moment. Okay, whatever. China's two top trade negotiators, Vice Premier He Lifeng and Deputy Commerce Minister Li Somhe, cannot be negotiated, will absolutely be used to demonize trans ideology. I mean, I think that's a constant no matter what. And yes, I did go through Ken Klippenstein's profile. Thoughts on him being maybe one of those nihilist accelerationism guys? No, I don't think so. No. I told you that, like, not a groyper, not super radical, which is so crazy to say because the act in and of itself is radical. But the reason why I say it doesn't seem like that is because those guys can't shut the fuck up about their politics, both on the left and the right, okay? Some of you on the left are in here. You can never stop talking about how you're actually a Maoist third worldist and everyone is actually a part of the fucking imperial core, America, using Maoist standard English. And on the right, it's even more fucking annoying. If you're like of the far right tendency, you literally will never shut the fuck up. Look at the Minneapolis shooter that went into the church. Everyone was like, that's a trans Antifa person. Fuck no, he wasn't. You want to know why I know he wasn't a fucking trans Antifa person? He had hung out with like the AK guy on YouTube. He literally fucking wrote high profile far right figures' names on his gear. Like, he was very clearly a nihilist, accelerationist, esoteric, neo-Nazi style shooter, many of which exist in society, many of which have actually engaged in fucking acts of ultra violence over and over and over again. Doesn't matter if the media fucking claims that they're actually leftists or whatever, right? Same with the recent Colorado shooter that actually shot up his school, literally as Charlie Kirk had been shot at Utah. How is this a radical act? He is at best a lib. Sorry, I'm just confused by the terminology. The reason why I say it's a radical act is because killing someone is a radical act, okay? Devoid of political background. It's just you shoot someone and you kill someone. That's a radical fucking act. What do you mean? He shot someone one shot straight to the cartord, like straight to the fucking neck. That's as radical as it's going to get, okay? It doesn't get more radical than that. It's a high-profile political assassination. It's more personal than political, like Luigi, an intelligent normie. His description is almost Sigma from his friends with a single cause after falling in love with his roommate. Labels don't do the investigation any good. Sorry for the politics frogs. Yeah, I mean, why does his ideology matter? Even if he's a principled leftist, it doesn't justify national crackdown of the left? Of course not. Of course not. Of course it doesn't fucking justify that. Stop trying to be specific anatomically. Okay, shut up. I always say it wrong. It's carotid, right? Carotid artery. Carotid. Carotid. Carotid artery. English is my second language. Shut the fuck up. Carotid. Anyway, whatever. That doesn't matter. Let's get back to it. Charlie Kirk's suspect appeared to confess to murder on Discord, sources say. Here's the
developments
additional
in the
reporting
investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination. CBS News has confirmed a Washington Post report that the suspect, Tyler Robinson, appeared to confess in an online group chat just before his arrest. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance stepped in to host an episode of Kirk's podcast, urging Trump supporters to report and call out anyone celebrating Kirk's death. Carter Evans is covering all this from the courthouse in Utah. Carter, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. The alleged shooter is expected to make a virtual appearance in court from jail when those charges are filed today. And as a possible preview of what's to come, a probable cause affidavit listed aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, and obstruction of justice as reasons for his arrest last week.
There was evidence, DNA evidence.
FBI Director Kash Patel said Monday DNA evidence found on a screwdriver at the scene of the shooting and on a towel wrapped around the alleged murder weapon had now been linked to the suspect. Patel added his agency is reviewing the alleged gunman's online activity and cell phone data.
He had a text message exchange, the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
Why didn't that person say something?
I think you were saying that there's no evidence that the shooter is woke unless you can see that being pro-gay is woke. Yes. And that is the case for many people on the right, especially in this administration, because this administration is so fucking brain broken that they think like Mitt Romney is a pussy. You know what I mean? Like the modern Republican movement, or at least like the National Republican Party, and the way that they communicate certain issues implies that like if you're fucking pro-gay or pro-trans, you are woke. You are literally Antifa. You're trans Antifa. You're Trantifa. Okay, that's the way they see it. That's precisely the reason why they're designing this as a story about left radicalization, a story about left radicalization and a shooter engaging in this like incredibly leftist act of super violence. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, trends de Antifa, like Trendaragua.
Our investigation is ongoing. That's a great question.
A Discord spokesman and 2 law enforcement sources told CBS News an account appearing to belong to the suspect claimed responsibility for the shooting in a group chat around 2 hours before his arrest last Thursday, writing in part, quote, "It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all this." The messages were first reported by the Washington Post. Discord has said it hasn't found any evidence that the suspect planned Kirk's assassination on the platform. While no motive has been identified, the FBI director said the suspect's family and friends told investigators he subscribed to a left-wing ideology.
We have to talk about this incredibly destructive movement of left-wing extremism that has grown up over the last few years, and I believe is part of the reason why Charlie was killed by an assassin's bullet.
Posting is
this part was also, again, super nutty. This part is as big as a story as the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and yet liberals seemingly are fucking falling asleep at the wheel once again, whether it be the Ezra Kleins of the world at the New York Times, or people who are authoring articles in liberal institutions and mainstream liberal institutions, or whether it be the Democratic Party broadly. This is an abject lie. The notion that like left radicalization has become increasingly more violent year over year, this is a real problem, is fucking so insane, especially because there's an unprecedented amount of right-wing political violence in this goddamn country. There is so much evidence to this reality. There's evidence from independent studies that have been conducted. There's evidence from the Department of Justice itself that conducted its own investigation that showed once again that white supremacists, white nationalists, white far-right anti-government extremists are responsible for the large share of crimes, political crimes, and domestic violence incidents, like domestic terror incidents in this country. Okay. The only thing they can hold on to is this notion that Democrats and liberals broadly have a higher percentage of acceptance for political violence as opposed to the right. And I described to you why that is the case, because of the way that we perceive violence in this country. We perceive violence as not violence directed by the state towards marginalized groups, but instead someone engaging in the act of resistance against those violent structures. That is the reason why people who are on the liberal side can sometimes say, yeah, like there's a level of political violence that can happen in the process that I wouldn't worry about. I wouldn't have an issue with. Whereas Republicans don't ever have to dream of a world where they have to engage in anti-state violence, because the state itself, in a liberal capitalist dystopia, is always reflecting on their violent desires anyway. It's already designed around doing harm and doing violence to these out groups, whether they be undocumented, whether they be trans, whether they be fucking black or brown people. That's violence in and of itself, but that's not perceived as violence broadly. Understand? Will you ever have an opinion? Will you ever have an other opinion, even if it doesn't fit your agenda? Wait, what? What the fuck what is this demand? What does that even mean? Why won't you change your entire worldview that's built around empathy? Why do you want me to be inconsistent? I demand you become inconsistent and lose sight of your moral compass. Hey, bro, have you tried just mixing up your opinions for a fresh look? Yeah. He said, bro, come on stream one of these days and start chirping like a MAGA guy, you know? Like, if you wanted to present me as a dishonest actor, okay, even though I wasn't live, like, my opinions early on were known about the shooter's possible ideological tendencies. And it seems like my speculation reviewing all of the readily available information at the time came true, that he wasn't a groyper. I didn't lean into that narrative, even though that narrative took root and a lot of liberals actually ran with it and a lot of leftists actually ran with it as well. And they ran with it so much that even the Republican side actually agreed on that front to a certain degree. And they actually scaled back their demands for civil war quite a bit. Of course, the administration didn't stop, the administration didn't scale back. They were just like, we don't give a fuck what the shooter's profile is. We're still going to fucking go after the left.
Friends podcast late Monday, Vice President J.D. Vance vowed to prevent what he called festering violence on the far left. And appearing as a guest, President Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, argued Kirk's death was the result of an organized campaign of terrorist networks, though he offered no evidence to support that claim.
We are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people.
Now, for now, investigators say the suspected shooter is believed to have acted alone, and we're expecting to learn more about that later today in court. Also today, FBI Director Kash Patel is expected to face questions about his agency's handling of the case when he testifies on Capitol Hill. Nate?
Carter, thank you.
We begin with Garrett Tenney live at the Utah County Jail in Spanish Fort with all the breaking details on this investigation. Hi, Garrett.
Carly, good morning to you. We have learned that the suspect told at least several individuals that he was planning to assassinate Charlie Kirk. In one of those instances, it was in a note he left for his romantic partner. In another, it was a text message to a separate individual. Neither person has been charged, but they could be down the road as the investigation continues. Here,
Another narrative that's like flinging around online that I also did not subscribe to is the notion that this was like an Israel hit, right? The reason why I said that, it was most likely not Israel, even though I fucking hate Israel. I'm the #1 hater of Israel, right? The reason why I said that is because like it just didn't make sense that Charlie Kirk was like about to turn on Israel any moment now, right? That narrative is huge, just not in your bubble. No, it's in my bubble too. What are you talking about? No, I know. It's a massive narrative. It's one that is like far reaching. It's one that people believe on, I would say, like the anti-Zionist side that isn't anti-Semitic. Like the critics of Israel side have also grabbed onto this narrative. It's also a narrative that many far-right figures and like right-wing figures also believe as well. That's definitely something that a lot of people are grabbing onto. What about the right wing saying he turned down $150 million from Ackman? That part is probably true. I mean, Charlie Kirk was funded by Israel. Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA was funded by pro-Israel groups and pro-Israel donors. That is absolutely correct. And I would never in a million years say that, like, when you are getting funded by Israel, that you're not going to get some fucking arrogant, entitled ass phone calls from some of the most annoying dipshits on the fucking planet for even daring to have like comic Dave Smith on stage at a Turning Point USA event. None of that means that Charlie Kirk was going to publicly turn on Israel, though, because Charlie Kirk was always going to stand by Donald Trump. A lot of people just don't understand that. And people on the right don't understand that. People on the right don't actually believe that that I guess Donald Trump is super pro-Israel for some fucking weird reason, because it's like a cult, even if they themselves are anti-Israel. You know? Devil's advocate, because I agree, but couldn't you just argue that Israel might not have wanted to risk the chance that he could turn even if he didn't intend to? No. Like, when Israel, I mean, look, as someone who has been pursued, okay, by the state of Israel, I have a lot of up close and personal relationship with the matter. And let me tell you, when Israel wants to fuck with you, especially if you're a political commentary person on the left, especially if you're like a visible public person in the Western world, okay, then you just making shit up. No, I'm telling you exactly how it works. There are a network of sophisticated propaganda and influence peddling operations that Israel can, on a whim, decide to deploy against you. It's more so bot farms and reputation smearing, okay? There are a million different things that they could do before they arrive at, you know, this assassination. But that also, once again, does not make sense, because that also, once again, does not make quite a bit of sense, because, like, the notion that Charlie Kirk was going to publicly turn on Israel is ridiculous. Your Uncle Jank on TYT thinks because he was turning against Israel too. Yes, a lot of people think that, and I don't know where they're coming from with this. I mean, I understand. I have no reason to believe that the gray zone reporting is incorrect. It has been confirmed by Candace Owens as well. The notion that, like, that Charlie Kirk, here's the Israel narrative. We covered it extensively yesterday, but I'll give you a quick summarization. Okay? Gray Zone reported, Blumenthal at Gray Zone reported that Charlie Kirk had a secret Hamptons meeting with Bill Ackman and two of the Babylon Bee guys. Okay? There were some other people that were also there. That meeting took place in the Hamptons, and the meeting was about, and Tucker Carlson too, sorry. I think Tucker Carlson was also there potentially. But that meeting took place, and the contents of the meeting was twofold. One, first, we're going to give you money. We're going to give you more money, but we want something in return. And two, when Charlie Kirk refused to take the money and felt like he was pressured, felt like he was being blackmailed, okay, they turned around and stated, they basically, like, had a mean conversation, right? They had a mean conversation with Charlie Kirk. They were probably They were probably very short with him, very arrogant. That's just classic. If you've ever had a conversation with someone who's super pro-Israel, whether they're American or Israeli, you get that vibe. They behave in this incredibly entitled, incredibly arrogant manner that is impossible to contend with if you are just like encountering the issue as an outsider for the first time, where you're like, what the fuck do you mean? What is this expectation, right? So do I believe that Charlie Kirk went and had like a bunch of mean conversations with pro-Israel envoys because he dared to sidestep even a little bit from the unshakable pro-Israel position that he is supposed to maintain? Because Israel, when they give you money, they demand a return on that investment. And that demand is unconditional loyalty, okay? Unconditional loyalty to Israel. So the very fact that he had Dave Smith on the Turning Point Conference, the very fact that he had Tucker Carlson on the Turning Point Conference was enough for these pro-Israel groups to fucking lose their minds and be like, what the fuck are you doing? How dare you have these guys on your conference? Like, how dare you give them any fucking breathing room, any space whatsoever? I believe all of that. I believe all of that. And Charlie Kirk's own public statements when he was talking to Charlie Kirk's very own public statements when he was talking to what's her face, the lady Megyn Kelly, also shows that he was very frustrated. He was pissed off that, like, regardless of his public facing unconditional loyalty to Israel, these motherfuckers were yelling at him for managing the messaging to the best of his ability, trying to keep the party's base together, because that's what Turning Point USA does. Right? That's what his goal was. His goal was to at least maintain some semblance of credibility by recognizing the discontent, especially amongst Gen Z Republicans, and make it seem as though TPUSA at least had like room for more discourse on this issue in an effort not to lose them to the likes of, for example, people who are very anti-Israel and also anti-Semitic, like the Groypers. Okay? All of that stuff can be true while Charlie Kirk would still not turn on Israel publicly. And the reason why I say that is because Charlie Kirk is a regime guy. Okay? Charlie Kirk is Donald Trump's very own propaganda minister. Okay? And therefore, as Donald Trump's propaganda minister, as long as Donald Trump wasn't going to turn on Israel, Charlie was never going to turn on Israel publicly either. Okay? It's that simple.
Here's FBI Director Kash Patel describing one of those messages last night on Hannity.
We've collected information where, through witness interviews from the FBI and local law enforcement, that he essentially
Why is it so crazy to think his best friend was literally saying he started to have a change of heart? Remember that one interview your uncle did with that Mossad guy? Yes. I do remember that. Guys, I am very tuned in. Okay? I am very tapped into this shit. I am telling you. Someone like Charlie Kirk, their own personal convictions or their own personal distaste does not matter with respect to their public output, okay? Jeffrey Epstein is a great example of this. He leaned into the Jeffrey Epstein stuff with the Bill Clinton connection for a very long time, okay? And then when he got the boss call, this is how he responded.
Talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine. Honestly, I'm done talking.
Charlie Kirk in the past had talked about Jeffrey Epstein potentially being connected to Mossad, for example. A lot of people keep pointing to that, to say, oh, he was starting to go on his journey, a change of heart. An honest change of heart on Israel for a guy like Charlie Kirk doesn't mean that his output was going to change. His public output was going to change. I can totally see him refusing to take $150 million from Bill A. Packman, specifically because he doesn't want that level of control over Turning Point USA. I can totally see him being frustrated by the demands that Zionist groups were making to Charlie Kirk about how he gets to manage his pro-Israel slant, okay? Especially at this point where he has like enough evidence of his success in terms of communicating on these sorts of issues. So obviously, from his perspective, he's like, what the fuck do you mean? I know what I'm doing. You guys have a real bad messaging problem. Just don't fucking interfere in my affairs. Like when I saw the Megyn Kelly conversation that he had, it almost felt like he was angry because they were just like fucking attacking him relentlessly because he understood the discontent that a lot of Gen Z Republicans felt towards Israel and how that was actually hemorrhaging support away from Trump even and putting them at the mercy of the likes of Nick Fuentes, who he obviously saw as a major villain, who he obviously saw as a real threat to what he was trying to do, right? Well, the reason why I keep bringing back the Jeffrey Epstein thing is to show you that regardless of Charlie Kirk's personal opinions, regardless of his distaste for Israeli envoys or demands Zionists were making from him, it doesn't change his public persona and his public output one bit because he is ride or die for the admin. He is ride or die for Trump. Unless Trump was going to turn on Israel, Charlie Kirk was not going to turn on Israel on his own.
Admitted. After the shooting and assassination of Charlie Kirk, the suspect admitted to it. But I will say what was found in terms of information, a text message exchange where the suspect specifically stated that he had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do that. And when he was asked why, he said some hatred cannot be negotiated with.
The alleged assassin was an avid gamer and very active on Discord, which is a popular messaging platform used by a lot of gamers. We've learned that shortly before the 22-year-old turned himself in, he confessed to assassinating Charlie Kirk in a group chat on Discord. In messages obtained by the Washington Post, he wrote, "Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've been all amazing. Thank you all for everything." We also know just hours before those messages in a different chat group, the alleged assassin was joking with friends who said he looked really similar to the man the FBI was searching for. Here's Kash Patel on Fox and Friends describing how those chat groups are factoring into this investigation.
Oh my God.
People think we can just get in these group chats and immediately find out who's in them. And there are scores of people in this Discord chat room. But we have to effectuate legal process. We have to go out there with search warrants so that if prosecutors want to later use this evidence, it's not tainted by being illegally obtained.
The accused killer is expected to be formally charged today, and those charges are expected to include aggravated murder, which does bring the possibility of the death penalty. And in Utah, that can either be by lethal injection or by firing squad. Carly?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Garrett Tenney, live for us in Spanish Fork, Utah. Garrett, we will be watching. Thank you so much. Let's bring in former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker. Chris, thanks for joining us. We learned a whole lot yesterday, and almost all of it had to do with this alleged assassin's digital footprint, messages that he sent beforehand saying that he was going to commit this crime, and apparently messages that he sent afterwards admitting to it. So how are investigators going to be using these messages to build their case?
Well, it'll be a very important part of their case. I mean, this is shaping up to be a very, very strong case. You have all the forensic evidence that's been piling up. You have these statements in the gaming chat room, if you will. The FBI has been gathering all this evidence in, as well as the other investigative agencies. And it really...
there's something so crazy about having to listen to fucking boomers talk about an issue that we all know a lot better than they do. Like the way that they're describing this stuff, you would think is like this incredibly scary thing, you know? Oh, they're doing talks in the chat rooms, gaming chat rooms, you know? George Zinn, elderly rabble rouser who falsely claimed he shot Charlie Kirk, is hit with child pornography charges. Oh my God. I don't know what the fuck to say no more, man. What evidence did he send his plans before the killing? Oh, there is no evidence that he sent his plans before the killing. The only thing that they have is that he wrote a note and hid it under the keyboard of his roommate slash partner, and then told them in a private conversation that was revealed in the preliminary investigation to check under the keyboard, which implies that they had no fucking clue what was going on. Are you going to be at ArabCon 2025? No, I will not be.
It does paint a picture. So you knit all that together for a prosecution, and there just aren't a whole lot of defenses to this type of evidence. What I think Kash Patel was correct. What people wonder why isn't the FBI in these chat rooms monitoring things that are going on? It's just not that easy. They need.
Yeah, they are. The problem here isn't whether or not this dude was like a leftist or not. Even if this dude was like, I'm right wing and I'm a neo-Nazi and I shot Charlie Kirk because I'm a neo-Nazi, the administration was still going to go along with this person is a radical far left individual, and that's the reason why we have to dismantle the Democratic Party. Like, that's what they're doing. That's what they're going with. That's what they said before they knew anything about the shooter. So, convincing my left-wing former close friends on Facebook that Charlie Kirk wasn't a Nazi or a fascist is completely futile because I can't even convince them I'm not a Nazi or fascist, and many have known me since early grade school. Yeah, I wonder why.
Need a tip or a lead from a member of the chat room or a member of the public that's had access, because they can't just go willy-nilly surfing through all these social media sites and chat rooms and gaming sites. There are DOJ guidelines and FBI guidelines and constitutional guidelines that prohibit that.
But Chris, now that we have those guidelines and those requirements met, the FBI is combing through the digital footprint, not just of the alleged assassin, but those with whom he communicated. So, Chris.
Yeah, see, they didn't get enough. All of this stuff is because they didn't get enough. I'm telling you right now, they are doing at the right-wing media outlets are looking at the situation and seeing exactly what we're all seeing, which is not enough evidence for like the trans Antifa narrative, right? Which is why they're trying to build this media profile that these Discord group chats were not just like a bunch of fucking Mormon gamers in Utah that have nothing to do with it, but instead we're actually secretly planning out a hit. These are like gay furries and transgender Antifa soldiers that were ultra militant, And the reason why they're trying to build this narrative, obviously, is the exact same reason why like Elon Musk and every other fucking right-wing person, including Nick Fuentes and all of these like groypers online, have been actively demanding that the administration muzzle any and every left or liberal figure that's out there. It's because they want to use Charlie Kirk's death as an opportunity to dismantle and destroy any sort of political dissidence that could take place in the country. Okay? But because they don't have enough evidence, to present this as like a radical Antifa thing, which, by the way, even if he was a radical Antifa thing, the notion that the administration should be able to tackle all left organizing is still insane, for the record. I need you to understand. Like, that's completely unacceptable. That's completely fucking ridiculous. Like, even if the shooter was just straight up like a Maoist third worldist or like a DSA guy, the fuck do you mean you're going to dismantle every person with an opinion where, you know, you should let trans people live? I think you're being crazy. You're being violent. Like, that's insane, right? That's fascism. But it's clear to me that that is their goal. And it's clear to me that it doesn't matter if there's enough evidence to suggest that. They're just going to present it as such and continue going along with this narrative. And the worst thing that could have possibly happened to the national right-wing movement on this is the initial response from the right that scaled back when they found out he was from good stock as a white kid from Utah from a good right-wing MAGA family, and then the subsequent investigations into what a groyper actually is. Because those narratives took hold. And it actually had lasting impact. A lot of people believe that now.
To me, the real question at this point is what charges could this possible extended network face if they are found to have radicalized Tyler Robinson into killing Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, it opens up the possibility of a conspiracy type of charge. That's going to be very difficult. This type of charge is very difficult if it's encouragement or passive, just listening to the information and not reporting it to law enforcement. That's a tough one. But that's something that I'm sure they're looking at very hard. If it's after the fact and they didn't say anything, that's one thing. Maybe accessory after the fact. If they were privy to pre-planning and information that would have helped law enforcement intervene and prevent this, then it starts to get a little bit stronger. So I think it remains to be seen here. It could be a stretch, but let's see what happens. I think they have a better chance of doing that type of case in federal court.
So one of the charges he is currently facing, it could change later today, but one of the charges he was arrested on is aggravated murder. And you heard Garrett say that does meet the criteria for the death penalty in Utah. Do you see that as where this case is going?
Absolutely. I mean, that's been mentioned in press conferences. It's been, the governor made it a specific point to mention that. And I think that's one of the reasons that, the state charge is much stronger, is they want to leave that death penalty on the table. There is a federal death penalty, but it's a little bit more difficult. So, and Utah has had executions in the not too recent past. So it's up there for and I would not be surprised at all to see the death penalty enhancement in the indictment itself.
And some notes on what people can expect later today. FBI Director Kash Patel set to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's going to obviously face questions on this probe. There's also going to be an appearance by this suspect, 5 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be virtually streamed from the Utah County Jail. There's also going to be a press conference held at 2 p.m. Eastern time to talk about the charges filed in this case. So we will be watching all of it as it unfolds.
Or wait, no, not this. There's another court hearing that will be televised as well. Did you see they're going to give TikTok in part to Oracle, so the Ellison family might end up owning TikTok, CNN, and CBS? One Trump-aligned billionaire family could end up controlling CBS News, CNN, and TikTok. 3 categories of social legacy media outlets. Legacy owners becoming friendlier with Trump, Meta, WAPO, Los Angeles Times. Sold to Trump allied owners, CBS, soon maybe TikTok and CNN. Facing massive lawsuits from Trump, New York Times, and Wall Street Journal. It's so ironic that one of the few outlets that is not like directly compromised by Donald Trump is unironically a far-right billionaire who actively has been the strongest advocate for Donald Trump. Rupert Murdoch is not a sufficient Trump loyalist by Trump's own standards, and now he stands alone alongside the New York Times. Both of these outlets are also hyper pro-Israel, for the record. Okay? That's another thing. That's another thing that you have to remember. These initiatives in terms of like both mainstream and independent outlets becoming super fucking pro-Israel and pro-Trump in general is unfolding in front of our eyes. Larry Ellison and Larry Ellison's son are now going to be owning the, like, I would say, 33% of all American media, both independent and also legacy publishers. That's crazy. Is Larry Ellison a competent billionaire, or is he like Elon Musk? He is a competent billionaire. Yes, he is a CIA billionaire. He is the most competent billionaire. It's more terrifying that he gets to control TikTok. Are you kidding me? None of these guys are good. I would go so far as to say Larry Ellison might even be worse somehow. Well, probably not. Yeah, Mark Andreessen is on this too. He's the CEO of Oracle, which is considered the most evil company in tech, which is saying something. So even, okay, it's not even a normal guy that did it. It's also like what's normal about him? It's good stock in the way that consumers